Kelly here, Kelly Soroka Life. And it has been a while since I've been able to get on camera and get into the YouTube space. The end of April and the beginning of May, and the rest of May is going to be very busy, has been going to be very busy, just lots of things going on. And so I just haven't done as many recordings as I wanted to do. And I really wanted to use the Taurus new moon as a time to connect and do like a crystal deep dive. And I just now finished the PDF that goes along with it. So I will put that down in the comment section and you can grab this and look at it, print out anything that you want to print out. It's got some activities here for you, and it's also got some journal pages for you. And I'm going to go through that a little bit more. But Taurus, the Taurus energy, the sun, of course, is still in Taurus. It's moving through Taurus and it has that very grounded energy. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so it can be very grounding and it can be a little bit hard to move sometimes. But it's very practical, and it's a time that you really want to connect to things that you want to be practical about. Your home, your finances, growing things. Those all need practical abilities, and crystals just fit right in because crystals can go along with any of those things. The crystals have earthy energy, of course, but crystals also are can tap into any kind of emotion and any kind of thing, something that you want to work with. So if you're feeling happy, they can boost that. If you want some confidence, crystals can help with that. If you want to feel more abundant, the crystals can help with that. There are stones that help with in meditation and help with intuition. And so all of those things, they can be very comforting. And Taurus energy is very comforting. And so it's a great time to work with crystals. So starting today, I know it's almost the full moon. So we're almost halfway through this cycle, but still want to do some of these things for you, get you this workbook so that you can do some of your own crystal magic as I do some of the classes. So this is the workbook, the PDF that you can print out or download and use. So it's got the introduction for you about crystals and the things that are coming up. And I put on here a place where you can do a moon intention because I know that we didn't start out with our new moon intention and it's kind of too late for that. But you can do this and just do it wherever you are. You can wait until the full moon that's coming up, the full moon Scorpio, which is definitely going to be, it's definitely an emotional mood. So you might want to use this and see how you're affected with that mood. So use this and however that you want to use it with the moon and your moon intention. And then there are some topics that we're going to discuss for the next couple of weeks and looking at ways to use crystals. And the first one you can see on this page is crystal grids. And so what is a crystal grid? It's just exactly what it sounds like. It's a grid made out of crystals. So you can use as few or as many crystals as you want. You can use stones from your backyard. You can use shells. You can use anything that's kind of natural that you can use it. And you can mix and match. You can use the crystals that you have and use herbs along with it. But it's anything, but the basis is kind of starting, with one or two or three crystals and putting them together in a layout. So as with anything, just like with when we do our new moon and we want an intention, we want a reason to do this crystal grid. What is it that we want to do? Do we want it for, I like to make crystal grids seasonally. So I will make a crystal grid and I'll try to put up a picture maybe at the end so that you can see a crystal grid that I have on my altar. And so usually I set up crystal grids seasonally so that it corresponds to whatever season we're in. So Beltane, I would have done one for that season, and then for Yule. I'll have a Yule crystal grid. And I start out, I have a just a round disc that I put it on. And then I put the crystals that I want to use. I have some that I use over and over again, some that I swap in and out, depending on what season it is. And then I will add anything that I feel like that I want to add to it. If it's Yule, I might use juniper berries or pine, pieces of pine or cedar that I get out of the yard or from a tree. I might use, different, something, like that. Or for Ostara, I might use uh, dried flowers. And so you can use anything that you want. But first, craft your intention. What do you want this crystal grid to be? Why do you want it? And how long is it going to be up? Is it one that you want to refresh seasonally? Is it one that you want to use for a while for a specific purpose? And that's great if you have, something mini, like a mini dish or something. You can just put a few crystals in it, make a grid. One that you make outside that just disappears overnight. So you can decide how long you want it to be, but the magic still is there with your intention. So craft your intention and then choose the crystals that you want to use. So look at the crystals that you have. Some may be ones like clear quartz that go well with anything. Some may be something very specific. If I'm using one like for Beltane, which is the fire festival, I might use cornelian, which is very fiery, or red jasper, which is red. If I want to use something that is like Ostara, when things are starting just to wake up, in the spring equinox, I might use something like bumbleweed jasper or something like that. But and you can mix and match. You can use anything that you want to use. You can use them any way that you want to use them. But just decide the properties, decide the things, and it might be just a lot of crystals that you like. I like all these crystals. I like how they look together, and I'm going to put them out. And so then decide on a base. Like I said, I have a wooden disc that has a kind of tree of life pattern on it, or flowers. It's over there, but it has a pattern on it. And so I kind of use that as part of the grid. But you can just, have a plate, you can have a dish, you can have just a table, and you can just set things out on them. Um, so then, play around with different ways to put your crystals. And, sometimes you'll have an idea and you'll just put them out and you'll think, this is it, this is how I want to have it. And then other times it will be more, you'll just have to listen to your intuition, play around with it, see what things work, what things don't work. And you might add some crystals, you might take away some crystals, you might just use one crystal and, put some other things with it. But, those are things that for you to decide and work with until you feel good about it. And like I said before, you can definitely add different things to it. You can add you can add herbs, dried herbs, or like I said, for Yule, you might use juniper or cedar. For Beltane, um, you might use something that's blooming in your yard, like violets or daffodils or things like that, whatever is, for whatever means this season to you. In the fall for Mabon or the autumn equinox, you might use leaves or acorns or something like that. So herbs, found objects that you find around your house or around your yard, or things that you pick up going on a walk, things that you just have that you're like, I'm gonna pick this up because I know I'm gonna use it for something. And then you're like, this is what I'm gonna use it for. It's gonna go on this crystal grid. And if you're using it for a specific purpose, like if you want something for abundance, then you might put money on it, or you might put honey, or you might put bay leaves. All of those things have to do with abundance and money. If you want something that's confidence, you might put an animal that you like, an animal like a little animal statue that means confidence to you, like a lion or something that you just feel means confidence. So think about those things and think about how it's going to add to the grid that you're going to make and where you're going to put it. Think about that. Where is this grid going to be? Is it going to be something that everybody is going to be able to see? Is it something you want to make that's just kind of going to blend in with the rest of your decor so that people would visit you and they see the grid? They're not thinking, some of us, want are open. Like I'm very open with mine. People come to my house, they see, my crystal grids, and the last time we had an HVAC person come and do the checkup for our systems. She came upstairs and like, oh, I love your grids. Look at all of the, look at all your crystals and your altars and things. And so you would be surprised, how many people just accept it these days. But I know that there are some people that if they came to my house, I would probably, not be comfortable with them going into those areas or seeing those things. So you have to think about that and think about how you want to use it. And so that's one of the great things about crystals is you kind of set up a little grid and it just looks like you've decorated. It looks like something that you've decorated. And one thing you could do is like if you have a picture of something that you have a photo that you like, then you could just put some grids arranged around the photo and it looks like that you are just decorating. So think about where your grid's going to go. And if you have kids or pets or other people that live in your house, or if you're making one outside or you're making one to take with you to work, something like that, just think about it and think about how it's going to function in that space. So, and think about how you can keep your intention with it and it work in the space that you are working in. The one that I have that's right over here, one of my cats used to just love to jump on that table and just things went everywhere. So, I eventually got him not to do that anymore, but just convinced him that he needed to sit somewhere else. But you had kind of have to think about those things and think about, what happens. And sometimes, I think, well, maybe he did it for a reason. He needed that energy. My cat, it's my familiar cat, definitely. And so I felt like that, he needed that energy in that space. And, he's telling me something. And so, think about those things. But then again, if you want it to be something that is protected, make sure that you put it in a space that is good for you. So once you've done that, you have your intention, you picked your crystals, you put all the things that you want in it, you have it and you in a place where that you want to keep it for however long it's going to stay up. Then you want to activate your grid. And you can do that in any way that you want. And that's the thing that I love about witchcraft is that you can do it in the way that feels good to you. You can use incense. That's what I do. I light an incense stick and I just wave it around and then I put it, somewhere that it can burn out the rest of the way. You can use a candle. You can burn a candle. I have candles on my altars with my grids, and usually at the end of whatever season that is, I will burn the candle then. You can use sound. You can sing a song. You can say a prayer. You can say Om, meditate. You can use something out loud. You can say it silently. You can use a bell. You can use a trumpet. If you hear my son in the background, that's his trumpet. So you can play a song. If you play music, you can play whatever's on your iPod, your iPhone. So just whatever way works for you. You can wave your hands around it. If you have another crystal, like a crystal, like a selenite wand or something like that, you can use that. If you have a stick that you have from outside, you can wave it around that. Whatever it is, there's lots of ideas, and just think about what goes with your intention or how you feel most comfortable doing it. So then when you're ready, and this is, I think a big question because people get the grid and they have it up and then they realize that it's a new season and they want a new grid. The grid has done what it needs to do, or you want to change it out. You want to change it out for some reason. And what do you do with the grid? Now, I personally, I go to my grid and I say thank you. I just say thank you to all the spirits that are in this grid, all the crystal spirits, all the herb spirits, all the nature spirits, all the gods and goddesses that watched over, all the divine beings, all my ancestors that watched over this grid, that helped me with this intention, and anyone that helped me with it. And so I thank them for it, and I thank the crystals for being part of my magic. And then I just disassemble it. I just take it apart. I will, spread the herbs. If it's something that can go outside, that because usually I do, if I use herbs, I do have something that is non-toxic, that's like an herb, that a food grade herb that I actually make tea with. So I can, I spread it outside. And then the crystals, I thank them. I might, set them out and, maybe use, incense them again, or, wave a selenite wand or something over them just to kind of cleanse them of that energy. But usually I just say thank you. And I say, thank you for this magic. And we're going to move on to something new now. And, usually they're very receptive to it. And if I feel like something needs to be cleansed or cleared, then I'll do that with incense, or usually with incense, or burning and herb like thyme, or something like that, that kind of gets that energy moving. And then I reuse the same disc over. I've used it for many, many times, and I just keep using it. And I think, I am, a great believer in that, in reusing and repurposing and recycling, because the last thing I want to do is with my magic to make it something that is hard on the earth, because I feel like magic needs to be in conjunction with the earth, in conjunction with the nature spirits and the ancestors. So that is what I do with mine. And if it's something that I really feel like if you wanted to do a grid, and because you were trying to get rid of something, that you were trying to get rid of an energy, or get rid of a bad habit, or to cut ties with someone that you really need to cut ties with, then I might, whatever I used, like an herb or something like that, I might just throw it, toss it in the compost bin, or toss it, in the garbage, whatever it is. And usually it can be like a piece of paper or something like that, that I don't feel bad about throwing away. So think about that too, as you're going into it, and in the end, what you can do with these things. And so I make sure, I try to, to buy beeswax candles, or candles that are good for the environment, and, things like that. So think about those things. And most of the things I have on my altar, and things that I have, that I use for the grids, are things that I can use over and over again in different ways. And if I don't want to use them for the next grid that I'm setting up, then I put them, in a special place. I have shelves, I have, places that I can put the crystals when they're not in use. And then when I want to come back to them, they're there, and they're, doing another job for me. And they're spreading their magic in a new place. So just think about that. It doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to buy anything unless you want to, unless there's something specific that you want to have, and you feel like that specific, or crystal is something that you want to really incorporate. So look at those things, and that's it. So that's how you do a crystal grid. And like I said, I'll try to put a photo of one so you can see an example of a crystal grid. And there are tons. If you look up on the internet, if you look up, anywhere, Pinterest, Instagram, there are tons of crystal grids out there, and you can see how people use crystal grids, and but don't let them be intimidating. Let them be like, oh, that's so beautiful. How, and their intention just shines through because it's so beautiful. But don't let it be intimidating because you feel like, oh, I can't do that, so I'm not going to set up my own crystal grid, because it's going to be beautiful no matter what you do. And my grids, are very simple. And like I said, I use the same base, a lot of the same crystals over and over again. And so, just, and I use things that I find outside. I use acorns and and leaves and branches and things like that to make my crystal grid the way that I want it, because it's the intention that's going to be the important thing. But if you want some just some inspiration, then it's a good place to look up some. And so then I hope that you download the PDF, get your workbook. If you want to print it out and use it, feel free to do that. If not, you can just look through it as we go through these things. And today is on page 3 for crystal grids. And then the next one, we're going to be talking about crystals and the chakras. So hopefully the next day or two, I'll put that up, and I'll do as many as I can until between now and the next new moon. So have a great day and go play with some crystals. Bye.